Hi, this is Umar Khan and you are watching Canada View. First of all, we will discuss the top stories. Canada is forecast to fall short of its 2030 target to cut emissions by 40%, according to a new report by Trotter Energy Institute.
For a large country with an economy that relies on fossil fuel production, achieving climate targets is still not coming into view, according to a new report. The Trotter Energy Institute suggests that by 2030, Canada is on track to reduce greenhouse gas emissions just 16% below 2005 levels, far short of the target of 40 to 45% set by the Trudeau government this year. To get there, the report says Canada, in part, must transition out of fossil fuel dependency to energy sources that do not emit greenhouse gases, and that we're not doing enough.
We need to have investments in those infrastructures that we don't see yet. We have to reduce our carbon footprint. It's either we plan it properly or we suffer the consequences of not doing so.
The Minister of Environment's office suggests the report's modelling is flawed, that many measures to reduce emissions are not included in the report, measures such as billions of dollars for home and building retrofits and to reduce industrial and vehicle emissions. If little is done, all major sectors will contribute to continuing high emissions. Ottawa is sticking to its target, at least 40% below 2005 levels, in everything from transportation to energy production to commercial and residential buildings. By 2050, transportation and agriculture will still be net emitters of greenhouse gases, but sectors like electricity, by closing fossil fuel burning plants, reliance on biomass combustion, and direct air carbon capture would balance out and bring Canada to net zero emissions. At least that's the goal. If more is required, the NDP has the votes to help the Liberals pass new climate measures. The Conservatives have set less ambitious targets and say the Liberal promises can't be taken seriously. As a major oil-producing country, Canada's commitments will be under intense scrutiny when the next UN Climate Change Summit begins in Glasgow in less than 4 weeks.
Major General Peter Dry will no longer be involved in reviewing ways to eliminate sexual misconduct in the Canadian military.
I was stunned and dismayed to see the media reports about this particular role.
Harsh words for the Prime Minister for the country's top brass over the controversial appointment of Major General Peter Daw, a decision the military reversed late Tuesday night after public backlash.
You said, Mercedes, that it seems as if the leadership just doesn't get it. And I think that's true.
Daw has been on paid leave since May, after the CBC reported he had written a positive character reference for a convicted sex offender from his regiment. That man sexually assaulted retired Army Captain Annalise Shamoon in her home. Shamoon was blindsided by the decision to bring Daw back in such a sensitive role.
My first thought was to all of the people who would lose even more hope in the system, that would be so devastated by this decision.
The Vice Chief of the Defence Staff is acknowledging yet another significant misstep. I recognize and apologize for the harm this has caused. The release of this news should have been handled by us with greater care and consideration. But victims' groups say even the apology is tone deaf. They were stunned by the military's announcement Daw would commit to restorative engagement, something they had not agreed to.
Now they've put it onto victims' groups to solve it for them.
Shamoon says she's heard nothing from the general.
We don't know where he's at or what work he's done.
Also troubling, the group, It's Just 700, says there was no sign in a hastily scheduled meeting on Tuesday that the Vice Chief of the Defence Staff understood the problem with the appointment and that she defended Daw.
She found out he had done nothing wrong.
Megan Fandridge clutches her 5-year-old daughter tightly as she speaks about the behemoth wildfire that changed their lives forever.
She doesn't talk about it, but her behavior definitely shows that she's stressed.
It is calm and by now cool enough to need a jacket in the evening. There's no danger, but just about everything surrounding them is a reminder of that Wednesday afternoon at the end of June.
I'm really easily triggered, the smell of smoke, sound of a helicopter, anything, a weird-looking cloud especially.
Dramatic. You know, the whole town was on fire. You know, the reserve was on fire. You know, people were running for their lives.
After days of record-setting temperatures from an unprecedented heat wave, on June 30th, fire started in the village of Lytton, destroying nearly everything in its path. In just minutes, hundreds evacuated. 2 people were killed. Now, 100 days later, many have not returned because they no longer have a home here. And what was once the hub of their community also now sits in ruins behind tightly guarded exclusion zones.
You only have to drive through. They're living in black. My riding was devastated by fires.
In the days that followed the disaster, government promised to support and rebuild. Those displaced are now frustrated that the process has been slow.
Disappointing. Lots of words, not a lot of action.
People know, Honourable Speaker, that there is a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term requirement in terms of building back Lytton.
The rising cost of gasoline is breaking records across Canada amid the country's COVID-19 pandemic recovery.
There's a certain defeatism when filling up at the pump.
I need to get to work, so I don't really have much of a choice.
In Montreal, prices edged past $1.50 a litre, a record no one wants to see broken.
The gas is going up, the foods is going up, the life is going up, everything is going up.
Sadly, he's right. And what's more, there doesn't appear to be any relief in sight.
Which means if you don't like here in Montreal $1.50 a litre, you're not going to like $1.60 a litre, which is what we're going to achieve one way or another well before Christmas.
With fewer people driving due to the pandemic in 2020, gas prices dipped dramatically. But everybody knew that was temporary, and they've since climbed to a record average of $1.46 a litre. The why is a bit more complicated, although it starts with crude prices. Demand was so low in April 2020, oil was somehow selling for below $0. Today, demand has seen crude surge to a 7-year high. Oil production is also down significantly, in part because of the shift to green energy. And that wouldn't be a factor, but only 4.6% of vehicle sales in Canada are zero emission. So, fuel remains an essential need. Overseas, the situation is actually worse. Gas stations in the UK are running out of fuel, and Europe's energy costs continue to rise as the temperature dips, because Norway and Russia aren't exporting as much natural gas.
What this really means is that we're in for a long period of an energy super bubble, if you will, something we haven't seen since 2008, where price continues to rise no matter what the economic circumstances are.
So get ready for a cold, expensive winter.
There are still no answers for Canadians who received mixed COVID-19 vaccine doses on when they will be able to resume international travel without facing restrictions in some countries.
There are many other countries that are still not available.
Like many people, Suza Jovanovic had big plans to travel, but COVID-19 got in the way. She booked a trip to Italy, not only because it's a nice place to visit, but unlike other countries, Italy allows travelers who mixed doses of different vaccines, like Jovanovic and her husband. There's one problem. The couple need to travel to the U.S., which, come November, may not allow travelers who mixed vaccines.
We won't be able to, as far as the rules are right now. That's detrimental to our business. That's detrimental to our way of life.
That's even more upsetting because she followed public health guidelines to take the first dose of vaccine offered to her. She's not alone. Nearly 4 million Canadians were given a combination of viral vector and mRNA vaccine, or 2 different mRNA shots,
despite the presence of the game-changing Delta variant.
At a virtual press conference Friday, Canada's top doctor said Health Canada officials have been talking to their American counterparts about the efficacy and safety of mixed dosing.
Let's just say we have left no stones unturned to advocate for the vaccine schedules here.
Now, the U.S. is expected to establish vaccine requirements for travelers by November, while snowbirds and sun-weary Canadians want to book travel now.
Some Canadians even want to travel because they haven't seen family in a very long time. That we still have travel advisories in place recommending that people don't travel unless it's absolutely necessary.
Jovanovic says it is necessary for her business, and she hopes Ontario will follow other provinces and offer her a third and matching dose of vaccine so that she can travel.
A Montreal dépanneur owner is hoping on the Squid Game trend. He is selling Dalgona featured in the show, and it is flying off the shelf.
Customers are racing to this Saint-Henri dépanneur to buy the internet's latest food trend, Dalgona. 1 hour after opening, the Korean candy, going for $1.99, is almost sold out.
This thing really blew up. It's amazing. I didn't expect this much.
Kim and his wife made a dozen to sell after binge-watching Squid Game on Netflix. The Korean language series is a violent thriller that tricks an indebted group of people to compete in classic children's games with a deadly twist. In episode 3, participants are tasked with cutting shapes out of Dalgona. Kim says the streaming sensation has brought back cherished childhood memories growing up in South Korea.
We had Dalgona really in our life, in front of the school, at the elementary school, we're kids and they are all around. We were doing it really, like an episode.
The viral honeycomb candy from Squid Game.
The nostalgic Korean street food has even turned into a trending TikTok challenge. Users combine sugar and baking soda to make Dalgona, then attempt to cut out the shape using a sewing needle. Kim describes the 2-ingredient treat as crunchy, sweet, and unique.
Because there's nothing like that here.
According to Netflix, Squid Game is on track to be its most-watched original series. This associate professor of East Asian popular culture says the influence of the streaming giant cannot be understated.
There's a kind of synergistic effect in the way that South Korean media and popular culture becoming, just more popular with audiences in Canada for sure.
Cho says Squid Game is part of a wave of Korean culture, including K-beauty and Korean food that's having a moment in North America. Kim has owned his dépanneur for 26 years. He only recently started stocking shelves with Korean products. He says, like the Dalgon, which he will be making again, customers can't get enough.
It's getting so popular. I'm so proud to be Korean Canadian.
Police in Nova Scotia are still offering few answers on the murder of Prabhajit Singh Khatri, a Sikh man who was fatally stabbed in Truro, northeast of Halifax.
Prabhajit Singh Khatri's father died when he was just 6 months old. He grew up determined to help support his single mother, working 2 jobs in Truro, Nova Scotia in a fast food restaurant and as a taxi driver after coming to Canada from India in 2017.
He was just very happy and working hard to send money to his mom in India so she can have a comfortable life.
Which makes what happened to Prabhajit Singh all the more shocking. In the early morning hours of September 5th, as he left his friend's apartment, he was attacked.
Somebody stabbed him and he ran upstairs. He had enough energy to run upstairs, but then he fell and he died inside the apartment.
Friends say he wasn't robbed. There was no obvious motive, leading many Sikhs to wonder if his killing was a hate crime. Data shows more Sikhs have moved to Canadian towns in addition to big cities. Leaders in the Sikh community say newcomers are sometimes vulnerable to hostility and violence.
There's a lot of suspicion that what drove this murder was intolerance and racism.
In a statement, the High Commission of India said, "We urge the Canadian government to ensure the safety of all Indian nationals, especially the Indian students in Canada, from racially motivated crimes." The High Commission advised all Indian citizens in Canada, particularly students, to exercise caution. More than a month after the murder, no one has been charged, although officials in Truro promised to pursue every lead.
The public was concerned about a hate, and that, and again, there's no indication at this point that that is the situation, but those are being followed through.
This was Canada View. For further updates regarding Canada, you can watch Voice of Canada. Keep watching Voice of Canada and visit our website voiceofcanada.tv.